C is for Collapse by Friendly Hobo. Come on, boys, let's hustle! Small elderly pony yelled from top of an APC down the road from me. The green stallion wore an old green beret on top of his white mane, and mouth was hidden by a large, well-groomed beard. You haven't got time to dwell! Evacuation. Had it really come to that? We fought the zebras for years, and Luna promised we never had to evacuate. I guess she had been wrong. The zebras were at our doorstep, our brave home guard defending us to the last pony. A sturdy holdout. After all, we were winning on other fronts. My name was Cotton Bud. I was there with the 101st Peacekeeper Division. We were tasked with maintaining order in wartime suppressing riots. We were stationed at a small town only 100 kilometers from the front lines. We were sent there to herd the local population onto airships for transport further down inland in case the unthinkable happened. Our colts were tough, but those zebra were damn near fanatic. If they broke through then, I didn't think the high-pressure wire cannon I sat behind on top of an APC would do much to deter them. Ponies of various races and sizes marched along single file, most in deadly silence. Some whispered sweet comforting words to crying foals too young to understand. My heart went out to them, and I hoped they never had to long to see what lay to the east. They didn't deserve it. I led alongside as I watched the large airship rise over the houses and slowly drift away, headed further inland. Another group saved, I thought to myself. My riot gear felt heavy on my shoulders, heavier than it should. My group and I had been sent to 3 towns already, all of which we successfully evacuated. We hadn't slept a wink since deployment 3 days ago. Some of us sunk in 20-minute naps where we could, but it wasn't substantial. I felt like I was actually in the military. My brothers and the father were out fighting, holding back the straight tide, and I would have been with them if it wasn't for medical reasons. They didn't let me in because my spine was misaligned. I couldn't do most of the things an army pony could do, but I could sit on top of an armored vehicle with a big water gun. That wasn't very stressful for my back. I heard the safe sounds of hooves climbing up the back of my vehicle. I took a gander and saw my squad leader climbing up. He was a tall orange unicorn stallion wearing a blue uniform. "Hey, bud," he said, sounding exhausted. He sat down beside me and sighed. I could only see the large bags under his eyes from 3 days of being awake. He was the only one of us who hadn't taken a break. "Sir," I said with a small nod. Turned my attention to 3 lines of ponies walking in file towards the evac zone. "How long are we going to be here?" Copper Ale stared at the small building surrounding us, not answering me at first. The town was small, but had a population of almost 500. The tallest building was only 5 stories. But from between the cottages ahead of us, we could see the massive tower of Hayseed, some of the smaller cities of Equestria. I spotted at least 5 airships slowly failing away from it. Too much of a risk not to evacuate, I suppose. "About 20 minutes, Copper finally replied. 3 airships away, holding about 75 each. How many does that leave?" I said, going to thought. I was never good at math. "Just over half," I answered after about 20 seconds. 275, I think. "Right," the science said with a smile, giving me a pat on the back. He kind of reminded me of my old science teacher back when I was a foal. He always turned me in math instead of my math teacher. She was mean. The small stallion, who was yelling earlier, jumped off the APC nearby and held his up to his ear. After a few seconds, he grinned. "Good news, every he yelled. "Our southwestern battle groups, with the aid of the coalition, have crossed to the zebra control region." There were gasps of civilians that breathed cheer. "We still gotta get out of here," the old stallion said, keeping everybody down. "We're still under the threat of thieves in the east. They're gonna want to turn the tide soon. Keep moving!" Music to my ears. I smiled behind my tinted visor. That battle group was the one my family was deployed with. I was sure my mom and little brother were celebrating the news over in Manhattan. I couldn't wait to see them again. Hopefully soon. The end had to be soon, didn't it? Surely the zebras would surrender, seeing as our guys were so close. I looked at Copper beside me, about to say something, but the tears running down his cheeks were enough. He lost everything to the war, and to hear that we were on the verge of taking the enemy capital, it must have been too much for him. Two more airships rose above the buildings, each one loaded with ponies. There only left a few more on the ground, and I could see the end of the lines. Some of our Colts in blue watched from building to building, making sure everyone had gotten out. I looked up to the graying skies. Pegasi and Ferrobucks zipped and zoomed overhead. Maybe supplies were patrolling our Griffin Mercs. At least I thought they were. But their patterns were a bit off. It looked like they were making clouds. Dark ones. This isn't right, I muttered to myself. Why? Then I heard it. At first it was a lone drone from far away, but then more drones started to join it, until all I could hear was heart-stopping, stomach-clenching wail of an air raid siren. More and more, from far and near, started to join in, blurring over the air. Planes began to scream in panic, not knowing what was going on. Even I didn't know what was going on. I looked up to the south, not sure what I was looking for. Bombers? Dragons?
No. Oh, sisters, no.
Copper muttered, frozen still. The old stallion on the ground didn't pay attention to the sirens, yelling at ponies to keep moving. Other ponies in blue riot armor and copper uniforms tried to keep everyone in line, but some got past, running to their homes to hide. All I could hear were the sirens, police ponies and peacekeepers yelling, civilians crying. I didn't know what to do. We all seemed so hopeful just 10 seconds ago. The sirens from hell had banished all hope from the Pegasus ponies. Those who didn't run home and run in the direction of the evacuation broke down where they stood, holding their loved ones tight. The ponies in blue started to drag and carry them away, trying to get them out of there. I even spotted a mare holding a small foal of baby tight, crying into their manes and kissing them lovingly. They had no idea what was happening. I looked at Copper, the one stallion who I always talked to, the one who I trusted, and I trusted like my own brothers. He was frozen solid, staring at the sky. Tears poured down his cheeks, dripping onto his riot vest. He was the only stallion who'd ever kept a cool head. No matter what, but his eyes said it all. They held no hope at all. I looked up to the skies again, not sure what I was looking for. Then, an excruciating bright green light streaked over the horizon. Then another. Then another. Then I saw more streaks of bright colors flying further inland, heading back in retaliation. "What is that?" I yelled.
You did it,
Copper whispered.
You finally did it.
His cold, dead stare fell on me.
They killed us all.
"What?" I yelled over the sound of screams and shout. "What do you mean?" Before the stallion could reply, the sky lit up in a brilliant green. I looked west and saw a horrendous, enormous, demonic green and black cloud rising into the sky, like a mushroom made out of pure horror. Whatever those things were, one landed right on top of Base Celestia. Shockwaves rolled over planes, toppling trees and throwing dust storms in the air. Foom! Another hit, this time further north. Another zillion gone, wiped out. What was going on? What did Copper mean? What had the zebras done? A very old stallion with a ragged beard stood on top of a small, 3-story building, his beard and mane flowing in the wind, his whole form silhouetted by bright green. "The end is here!" he yelled out over the crowds. "Apocalypse has come!" I stared in awe. My heart felt like it was in a vice, and my stomach tied itself to 1,000 knots. The old coot was right. It was the end. APCs and some of our other vehicles began to move, heading away from the clouds and out of town. Another airship tried to take off, full of ponies, but I didn't see any more trying to take off. Those pilots had to be crazy to stay, either crazy or big damn heroes. With a jolt, my APC began to move, slowly at first, but picking up speed. "Where are we going?" I shouted down to the driver. "Anywhere but here," the man replied. Candy Cane. I didn't know her very well, though I wanted to, but this was it. Well, too late. A green light began to brighten up the clouds. It was getting brighter and brighter. A low roar started to pierce through the blaring sirens. The ground began to shake. Then a painfully bright, massive comet flew overhead, suddenly superheating the area. It felt like 1,000,000-degree air scorched my lungs. Candy Cane and Copper screamed, but the cries of anguish were cut short as a massive explosion shattered the ground beneath us. Behind us, vehicles flew off the road as a shockwave tore through the town. It didn't matter how fast we went. The back wheels of our vehicle lifted suddenly, and I fell down into the cabin. The APC tumbled in end over end through the screened, superheated air. I felt my blood boiling and my coat burning. I screamed, but my lungs felt like they were full of lava. My heart felt like it had become a lump of charcoal. I heard a crack, and a pain like no other lanced through my skull. Then I felt nothing. I saw nothing. I heard nothing. Everything turned black. Was I dead? Pain pierced through the blackness. My lungs felt like they had just jump-started as I took my first breath of air. The air tasted foul. It must have been what evil tasted like. I felt like someone had shoved a belt sander down my throat and had dipped my whole body in a deep fat fryer. My eyelids practically creaked as I opened them. Despite the pain, I had to know what had happened. How was I alive? What had hit us? I had so many questions that needed answers. My eyes felt shriveled and dry, like raisins. It was dark inside the cabin of the wrecked APC. The only light shone through a hole above me. The first thing I made out was the cracked glass of my visor. It hadn't shattered, but the bottom right corner had cracked off, leaving just a jagged corner. My vision adjusted and I saw the inside of my APC. The side storage panels had burst open, throwing contents everywhere. Boxes of supplies, weapons, personal belongings, everything. Something had fallen on me. It felt. I lifted my burning forelegs and reached under whatever it was. With a lot more effort than I thought I had left, I lifted the offending object. Some of the other walls itself. I shifted it off my hind legs, and as it fell, I let in a ghostly green light from outside. Copper, I rasped, my voice sounding like gargled nails. Candy. I got no reply. I turned my hand and looked at the armored cab, but all I could see was a severely burnt mare. No way she had lived through that. Then again, how had I survived? Anyone? I croaked, laying on the ground. I got no reply. Anyone? I tried again. Please. Sub pony. But there was nothing. Just a ringing in my ears and a crackling of fire. I gotta get up. I muttered to myself. I gotta get up. I looked at my outstretched forelegs and saw to my horror that my coat and skin had burnt away where my uniform sleeves had been ripped. The pain was excruciating. I could even see my muscles tense as I moved them. I even saw the veins still pumping blood. I tried to roll over, but my back exploded in pain. My already weak spine was done for. A lifetime of pain and hardships had finally come to that. It was broken, no doubt about it. But I couldn't feel my back half. But I had to do something. I had to get up. I reached through the twisted hole in the side of the vehicle and tried to pull myself up. Every inch of me protested, shooting racking pains all through my body. But I couldn't give up. I survived the end. Capitalized. The end. I couldn't let that chance go to waste. I tried again, pulling on the side of the vehicle. I finally pulled my head over the side, then my shoulders, then my torso. My lower half dangled limply inside the APC. I finally pulled myself out and fell to the scorched dirt outside. I lifted a hoof over my eyes, shielding them from the light and hot winds blowing through the cracks in my visor. All I could hear was the crackling of fire, the howling of winds, and rubble falling to the ground. Blinking several times, I lowered my hoof. We had been not several meters off the road, stopped only by the iron supports of a small shopping center. The APC had crashed through one of the walls. Down the street, I saw the green mushroom cloud rising into the air, and I could only see the base of it. That was close. You know, in the Fallout lore, they said the Fallout Boy sticks his thumb out because he is looking at where the explosion is. Does the Fallout Pony do the same thing? I looked back at the APC. The damn thing saved my life. But the others weren't so lucky. The windshield had blown right open, exploding Candy to the blast. And as for Carper, all that remained was a darkened shadow of him, where he had been sitting on top of the APC. I wanted to cry, to roll over and die right there. They were dead. My best friend and someone who I liked. Was I the only survivor? Had any of her pony died? No, they couldn't have. There had to be others like me. One hoof after the other, I dragged myself free of the rubble and out of the supermarket. It took an extraordinary amount of effort, but I made it. I looked to the sky, hoping to see even a glimmer of hope. The clouds reflected into bright green, and in parts looked charred black. I watched as one of the airships fall to the ground, engulfed in green flames. I must not have been out long, but there was hope. 2 other airships seemed airborne, but where could they land? I looked through the buildings trying to spot hayseed. I saw it all right, and the clouds just behind it. The support cables for the tower flailed wildly around it. Soon the whole thing crumbled to pieces, falling to the ground. Several buildings around me had collapsed, and closer to the cloud looked as if they had been vaporized. I couldn't see a single soul around me. I was alone. The airships wouldn't come back for me, and there was no rescue teams. Everyone was dead. I saw charred limbs and bodies in the streets, shadows scorched into the crumbling walls. Some looked to be running, some on the ground weeping. My wounds had started to tingle, the pain slowly dissipating. My lower half had flared into pain. I almost cried out, but was too surprised. I could feel it again. I felt as if my spine was repairing itself. But how? It was impossible, unless it had something to do with the meteors, whatever they were. After a good 10 minutes of pain and tingles, I regained control of my hind hose. I pulled something upright and looked myself up and down. I wasn't missing anything except for my tail, which looked like it was burnt off. I began walking. Where? I had no idea. Away, the clouds sounded like a good idea. What was I going to do? I couldn't do nothing, that was for sure. That meant the first thing I had to do was find help. Some of the airships had survived. Maybe I could radio for help. Where would I find a working radio, though? My command vehicle was toast. I could see the front half of it wedged as it climbed down the road. Its antennae snapped, the satellite disc torn in two. Maybe the evac zone's control tower had survived. It wasn't reinforced, but was flanked by concrete buildings. My host barely responded to my commands as I stumbled over the hot rubble, barely gaining parachutes. The streets were littered with charred debris, most of it still burning with green flames. Sisters, it was so hot. I felt like I was on fire. But something was keeping me alive in that hell. It was helping me, even healing me. At least that's how it felt. I kicked a small piece of rubble accidentally and winced in pain. My hose were chipped and cracked, exposing the muscle underneath. With each step, the flame flared up all over my body. Sometimes my vision would blur from the pain and my heartbeat would blast in my ears. It meant that I was alive, though. I was beginning to think it was a bad thing. The streets howled with the wind, but I could hear the screams of innocents echoing down the street. They weren't anything more than echoes, though. They were more charred ponies and ghastly silhouettes as I got closer to the evac point. They became more infrequent as I approached the town square. I found myself thinking to princesses I couldn't make out the features of what was left on the ponies. If I could, I would have made it this far. I turned one last corner against the wall for support. I felt lightheaded. I quickly found myself face first on the charred concrete. I groaned in agony and sobbed. I wanted to die. I didn't want to survive any longer. I wanted to see my family. Why wouldn't the world just let me die? The pain was excruciating. No tears fell from my eyes. My tear ducts had dried up. I lived, though. Lived through the apocalypse. Why? There had to be a reason. My head pounded and my vision blurred with every fifth step. But I was alive. Out of every pony in that town, knowing that reason, fate had chosen me to live. Was I going to throw it all away? As much as I wanted to, I couldn't. Getting back to my house, I stumbled forward. The square was so close now. I could see the temporary radio tower. Thank goodness it hadn't fallen. Someone was smiling down on me, but for how long? I climbed over the rubble, trying to avert my eyes from the smoldering corpses that littered the area. Some wore charred riot armor, while others were holding each other for comfort before they died that way. Ponies' belongings, most burnt to cinders, were piled up, waiting to be loaded into the metal frame of a scorched airship. I navigated the barricades, not as hard as I thought, since most were destroyed, then up the creaking, red-hot metal stairs of the radio hut. It took me so long, but at the top my hooves tingled, healing themselves. Not fully, but enough. I pushed the door. The whole thing fell down. Inside lay 3 bodies. 2 of which seemed mostly intact. The last one was still standing at the window. The head was seared down to the bone. If I could, I probably would have vomited. Nobody deserved any of this. The zebras were going to pay. Had they already? Had we done the same to them? It didn't matter anymore. I stumbled to the room. The tripped on the remains of a chair landed next to one of the bodies. I groaned in pain. With my vision clear, I saw the face of a mare staring back at me. She blinked. A survivor. "Hello," I croaked. "Can you hear me?" The mare took a long, raspy breath and caused a sick green phlegm on the ground. "Yes," she rasped. I can't feel anything." I reached forward and touched her cheek. To my surprise, the skin cracked and flaked off, revealing her muscles underneath. "I'm here," I said, trying to reassure her. As static as I was, I found another survivor. She didn't look like she was going to make it. "We need to get help." The mare coughed one more time. Her mane had fallen out in chunks, and her skin was cracking with each movement. "Radio?" she rasped. "But I'm not..." "Shh," I said, getting to my host. "You're going to make it. You have my word." "Your word?" she whispered. "I don't even know you." "Cotton bud," I said, trying to see the machines were online. "And you?" Talking to her was the only thing I could think of. She had to stay focused. She had to survive. "Custard tart." She couldn't move, even if she was trying. "Cotton bud, that's a nice..." She went silent. I turned and crouched down beside her. "Come on. Don't die. Don't die on me, please," I begged. I didn't want to be alone. She coughed a few times, showing she was alive. I can't," she rasped, staring at my visor. "You can," I replied. "If I push forward, so can you." The mare gave me a weak smile, the whole side of her face cracking and flaking from it. "I wish I could," she whispered. Can you lift your visor?" she asked. I hadn't tried yet, so I didn't know what to say. Instead, I put my hose on my visor and tried to tilt it up. It took several seconds, but my visor became unstuck, lifting over my face. It was so weird, this evil air, finally hitting my face. Then I stared down at her. "You," Tart said, "you don't look so good." She continued to smile, though. "Neither do you," I said, giving a small smile. She coughed a few times, trying to chuckle, but she couldn't manage it. Her eyes began to close. "At least," she began, "at least I'm not going to..." "Don't," I said, my heart starting to break. I just met someone who gave me hope. A survivor. She couldn't die. "Just don't." Her eyes seemed to widen again with great effort. "I didn't die alone," she whispered. "I'm happy the last thing I'll see is a friendly face." "Don't you dare," I said, crestfully her face. "You're going to survive." "No." She sighed, her eyes closing. "I find others. Help them." She closed her eyes, let out one last sigh. "No, please." Nothing I could say would bring her back. She died in my house. I let go of her face and looked up. "What's the point?" I said, hoping for an answer. "Why do you give me hope and take it away?" No reply. Of course not. I then looked at the console and spotted one dimly green light in stack. "This is Camp Crocodile. Repeat, this is Captain Crocodile. Someone, anyone, please respond." A voice crackled faintly over a headset sitting on a chair. I picked it up and fitted it on my head. "This is..." I stopped to cough, spitting out dark blue slime. That couldn't be good. "This is cotton blood. Please talk to me. Holy shit! Shh, blood has got you? Voice asked. I can't hear you, I replied. Give me a second. I didn't know how to work the fancy radio, but I had to try and get a clear transmission. But then at what cost? What if I lost the connection together? It was a risk I had to take. Well, it wasn't long before I found a small knob sticking out from the console. That had to be useful, even if it was just a volume knob. I placed my gnarled hoof on it and turned it. Static burst through the headset, losing whoever was on the other side. No! I shouted. No, please, no! I turned it the other way. Come on, where are you? And again, trying to find someone. I lost him. No! I kept turning the dial, calling out to the microphone. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Every second that tickled past, my chances of help dropped. You hear me? Hello? This is it. It was that guy. Hello? I almost shouted in the headset. Captain, is it you? Fucking here we got him again. This time he was actually sounded clear. Son, you're the first survivor we've found. Where are you, Keeper? Don't sound so good. Draw still, sir, I said, then called again. I need help. Damn, that's out of the way, the Sally replied. I didn't care how far I was. Sir, what happened? I asked, sitting down. My legs couldn't take it much longer. There was a long sigh. Son, I don't know how to tell you this. The Zebras did it. They bombed us with balefire. We don't know how many cities they've hit. All we can see on the cams is fire. Where are you? I asked. They survived. They had to be somewhere safe. Can I get a pickup? Camp Chogodile, the captain replied. Bunker in the Great Dividing Range. We're diverting 8 survivors over here. There was a long pause. Chances of pickup, though, those are slim. Please. I rasped, holding my hose. Please, I need help. Son, this is a collapse of civilization as we know it, the captain said, his voice cold. Anyone who survived needs help. Are there any stables near me? I asked in a futile attempt to get help. They're all sealed by now. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. There's maybe a couple hundred ponies on the surface who are alive. Maybe. We haven't found anyone other than airships on the airways. Can you send one to me? I'll see. Get to said with another sigh. Are there any air survivors? Yeah. I stopped myself short and looked at Custard Tart. Her skin was still flaking off, but her uniform remained, largely intact. She looked so peaceful. No. That, the captain started, that doesn't help your chances, son. There was some mumbling in the background. Some of it sounded tense and heated. I rested my head on the console. The only way I get out of here is if they helped me. I peered out the window, seeing more mushroom clouds in her distance. They must have hit every populated center. More streaks across the sky. Then more explosions felt in the distance. How long was it going to last? I couldn't watch. I turned my head and stared at the ground. All I could see was a pistol. Discarded as the bombs fell. It didn't look too damaged. Maybe it still worked. I picked it up and looked it over. Maybe you can't save me, I whispered into the microphone, but maybe I could save myself. I then pulled the pistol, let receiver back, and held it close. Son, don't do it, the captain said, breaking from the conversation. We need everyone we could get. This might be the collapse of civilization, but we need everyone out there to build a new one, or at least try. Why? I whispered. I don't feel like a pony anymore. My voice felt like gravel in my throat, scratching with each word. I feel like a corpse. Now hold on, son. I'll see what I can do. The mic went quiet as the soldier talked to someone else. I listened for a few seconds, staring down at the barrel of a gun. It could be so over so quickly. I could be with my family again. With Copper. Maybe Candy and Custard. I would be free of the new hell. Just a little bit of pressure with the trigger. Cotton, are you there, son? The captain asked, his voice loud in my ear, slightly excited. Hello? Please, come in. I'm here, I whispered, still staring at the gun. Captain, I know you can't save me. It was a harsh reality, but it was the truth. There was nothing he could realistically do. Unless, of course, he wanted to come out here himself and save a poor soul he never met before.
That's where you're wrong.
What?
I've contacted Delta 09er. The captain on board was hesitant, but when I said survivors, he turned his ass around.
A lot of rustling coming through the mic.
Stand by, Cotton. Hang in there.
Rescue? The concept seemed so out of place. Was there help? I looked at Custer's peaceful body. She gave me help, but she was taken from me. Was hope even real anymore?
Can you walk?
His voice stopped me down a notch, lacking any excitement he had before.
Tell me you aren't fused to something.
I can't walk. I replied, putting the gun down. I wanted to pull the trigger, but I just couldn't. As long as there was hope, I wouldn't. I couldn't. I don't think so. I hadn't tried to pull my armor off. Why would I have? My hardened vest seemed to be more snug than before, though. After a few seconds of pulling and tugging, I knew why. I fused my armor, sir. That wasn't good. Not at all. Oh, sisters, I'm a freak.
Freak or no, you're alive.
The voice seems very calm now.
Cotton, I need you to head north. The airship can't touch down in town. 2 months of a hot zone. The captain said he can put down about 3 kilometers out of town. Can you make it that far?
I looked up into what I figured was north. A lot of clouds that way, but they seemed so far. Had to be miles away. It sounded like they were going to put down the highway at 37. My geography was right. I looked at the gun in my hoof. Bullet to brain or potential survival. Those were my options. Seconds passed as I stared at the gun, weighing my options. If I left, I'd be in the dark until I reached that airship. If I reached the airship. The captain did say balefire, though. I remember hearing that stuff does weird things to living things. And there was a lot of forest between town and the landing zone. Maybe I'd need the bullets for the trip.
Son?
That was it. Decision time. Either I pull a bullet in my head or I get walking. Cotton.
Cotton, are you there?
I stayed silent as I looked at the north again. I'm on my way, I said, then put down the headset. I heard the captain say something, but I couldn't make it out. I crouched down next to Custer inside, saying my final goodbye. I didn't know her, but I felt I owed it to her. Sliding the pistol into my armor, I stood up again, then headed out the door. It looked like hell outside, and my short journey didn't look like it was going to be fun. But damn it all, what did I have to lose? So I began walking. Collapse or no, I was going to survive.